Welcome everyone to Prepositions, a poetry reading with Elyce Melmon. I am Lauren Hesse, the Director of Alumni Engagement at Castilleja, and my job is to bring our community together, and being a part of this event makes me so happy. So thank you all for being here. On behalf of Castilleja, we are thrilled to host this event today in honor of and to share the work of one of our most beloved teachers, Elyce Melmon. We had about 60 RSVPs and attendees, and it looks like about 50 people here today, which is amazing. The attendees include alumni, former teachers, current teachers, friends, and family. When Elyce and I discussed hosting this event, one of the things I asked is, well, what about your book? Because people are gonna want your book. And Elyce was so wonderful. She generously offered to donate her book to raise funds for Castilleja tuition assistance. What a special gift from Elyce to bring us together for this poetry reading and to help our community give to tuition assistance. It's important to know that tuition assistance this year is important every year, but especially important this year because so many of our families and students have been impacted by COVID. And with the inspiration of Elyce, all of you have come together to raise over $1,000 for our students for tuition assistance. So thank you all so much for your generous gifts. Having this event was the idea of one of Elyce's dear friends, another former beloved teacher of Castilleja, who I want to introduce to you today, Nancy Flowers.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce Elyce, who's somebody who really needs no introduction to this group at all, but it's still a real personal pleasure to introduce my dear friend. You'll see us on the screen about 1980 at recess. Like many of you, our friendship began at Castilleja. We had adjoining classrooms and in the English department office, adjoining desks. And our friendship has continued well beyond Castilleja for more than 4 decades. We've shared marriages and funerals and grandchildren, divorces and illnesses and birthdays and anniversaries, and a love of gardening, and of course, a love of literature. When you hear her poem today, Why I Write, many of you who were her students will remember how Elyce gave you the confidence and the skills to begin to write yourself. Elyce.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was really lovely. And I can't begin to tell you how touched I am. This is kind of like a Castilleja deja vu. I spent so many happy years in room 18, and many of the people who are here on this Zoom call were there with me, making my experience one of the most rewarding of my life. So I thank you all for joining me today. Nancy was, of course, the instigator for this reading, but she also was enormously helpful to me in putting together a book that really was intended for my children and my grandchildren. So the poetry is personal. I think most poetry is personal, but particularly mine because it's not political and it's not terribly philosophical. And Nancy's thought was that maybe some of my experiences over a long period of time would resonate with you. It's really hard for me to believe that I retired from Castilleja 23 years ago. 23 years, that is a long time. I really wish that I could have a personal one-on-one meeting with each one of you who are here today so that I could hear what's gone on in your life in the past 20 years. But I'm also at the same time marveling at this technology that's bringing us all together. And I feel very humbled because as I look at the list, I realize that I'm in the company of many, many talented writers. I could start rattling them off to you, but I'm afraid I might miss someone because there are so many really talented people in our group. So thank you so much for being my support, as my colleagues have always been. my best supporters. And I hope that one or two of my poems might speak to you. Thank you so much for being here. The book is called Prepositions. And that's because I think probably like you, I spent a lot of years scrambling for little successes, comparing myself to other people, stressing a lot. And what I realize now in my older age is that none of that really mattered very much. The only thing that really mattered are my relationships. Relationships with places, events, objects, but most of all with people. And so I decided to title my book Prepositions, and I've divided it into 5 sections. The first is called Before, and as you could guess, those are early poems. The second one is called Between, and they're poems that are dedicated more to places. I had the privilege of traveling with my husband to some wonderful areas, and I have some poems about Africa and Tiananmen Square, Kathmandu. So those are included. And then the next section is called Beside, and those are poems for and about people. Unfortunately, many of the poems that I wrote are about people who have died. And that, I guess, brings me to the next section, which is called Without. And those are poems of sorrow. I've experienced some heavy sorrows myself and found that writing was the one thing that really helped me through the grieving period. And from there, the last and 5th section is called Beyond. I don't know where we're going from here, but I do know it's beyond. So without further ado, I'll read some poems to you, and then I really look forward to some conversation with you at the end of this. So thank you. The first poem is called Evolution. I wrote this when I was in high school, around 1955, maybe it was 1956. I was, I think, a junior or a senior at Lowell High School in San Francisco. So, when ingratitude grows to a gregarious function, and everyone wants to act like no one and be treated like someone. When man creates chocolate saints that he proudly consumes to conceive waste, I will sit upon a broken branch, meticulously picking lice from my own furry arms, and occasionally I will laugh. The next poem is about my maternal grandfather. It's called Cultivation. And you may notice that there are a lot of garden metaphors in the poem. I spend a lot of time in the garden, as Nancy suggested. And so I love the idea of putting very different roses next to one another, maybe even grafting them. And so I use that pretty much as a metaphor for what my maternal grandfather was probably going through. Cultivation. My Zeta, so many Sabbaths ago, sipped his tea through a sugar cube. He taught me to sing, told me whom to marry. It was spring. I listened, but rarely heard. You may love, he allowed, but none who speak in foreign tongue. Immigrants relish order. Walk where the grass is fittingly young. Let the fringes of stars form a border. Let the light of morning designate your way. With all your heart, with all your soul, follow. Now, in blossomless winter, I bury bulbs, blanketing soil around their necks to warm the worms who blindly sift through silt. Rising from the mulch of time, familiar scents like chance recur to channel memory Weeds the winds decline to carry. Bare roots rest on man-made mounds, manipulating the fertile dirt, secure beyond barbed wire. My Zeta, so many Sabbaths ago, sat in the shade to read his Yiddish news. He refused to relish the fruit of fresh fears. Phrasing admonitions in a voice that echoed the dead. Wear them as a signpost upon your head. Choice is bold luxury. Children climb each fence. No dispensation from some weary God who has forsaken sight. Zeta scorned my mirth as sacrilegious spite. Some buds survived the freezing of the night. Ground that was parched has been quenched. At each birth and awe, hybrids in their proper place blossom with new worth. He ached to save what he called pure. The compost of what used to be nourishes a strength in me that will endure my doubt. At dawn, I deadhead. Forgive us our forgettings. Each season suffers. Blooms bow before a jealous wind. The song swells to sonata. With all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. Again, I cultivate heritage and French lace. Graft just Joey to Mr. Lincoln, judiciously cut between the thorns. Beyond winter's death, I dig for my grandfather's faith. Fingers bleeding with forbidden stigmata. And the next poem is one closer to home. I'm sure many of you have enjoyed this Rodin sculpture garden as much as I. As if they understand, they lean into sorrow, a mirror for man who dreams of becoming a work of art. As if they see beyond the eyes eyeing them, the fears, frustrations, the boredom, the banal torture of being. As if they hear the footsteps on gravel paths, the bells telling time to go on and on, the myriad clever cell phone songs. As if they swallow adulation, spoken not to praise but to impress. As if they suffer the follies of arrogant inspiration. As if they could remember that once, long ago, they too were human. And the next is based on a true experience. My guess is that some of you will relate to it. It's called Stray. Uninvited, undeterred, she sat before the sliding glass door of my kitchen, a bard willing to sing for sustenance, prima donna anticipating applause. She knew I knew her, fellow female with needs unmet. Did she expect that I would see myself in those piercing green eyes? If a fluffy pup, an injured bird, a wayward child, I'd never turn my back. Just a sip of milk to sate the skeletal waif and send her on her way. Her entrance was graceful. Politely, she consumed the offering, meticulously cleansing her paws and then vanishing into near night, only to return at dawn. Just a crack. I opened the door, a crack, to relieve my anxiety at her arrogance. Then up she pranced upon my clean counter, agilely sidestepping a vase, a rose, framed pictures of my lost loves, and unmitigated presumptions of this uninvited guest moved me to tempt her to my patio with a tin of tuna. Her motored bones against my bare leg. Was it thank you? Affection? Seduction? It had been so long, so long. On the next rainy night, I let her share a soft repose, a bit of nourishment to turn her plea to purr. But let it go no further. I would make it clear. I am neither mother nor lover, perhaps an occasional friend, just that. When she offered gifts, her treasured bounty from a hunt laid out upon my waxed floor, and intimate, intact cadaver, my queasy stomach rebelled. We are responsible for those we save from the cold, the dark, the night's anonymity. We are responsible, and then there is no turning back. The next poem may also be familiar to you, Spotting an Egret on Sandhill Road in the Morning. So unexpected. Her beauty, oblivious of itself, accepts, announces the nuances of morning. Her silence demands hushed response. I turn the news off, shift into neutral, grateful for the red light so I can pay homage to Her Majesty. She doesn't belong in this playing field, and yet she calmly commands it, dry and budless beneath the peon clouds. I've never seen her here before. It may be unfamiliar to her as well, yet she governs as though elected with acclaim. Gracefully, with the ease of one who knows she's being watched, she glides into prominence, transforming the routine commute into a magical journey. And the next is At the Seattle Museum. I've seen the bones of Lucy. Waited for a mythic response like bobcats staring down the thread of day. Skeleton encased in silent glass, once danced, once ached, broken and mended and tenderly touched. I've seen the bones of Lucy, smelled the jungle on her skin, poked toward that hole that was I. What can she confirm? What would she deny that sanctions our sisterhood? From daughter to daughter to daughter, her blood now dried, once raged. Her spine is upright as my own. Where is the soul that centered her? Did it seep from her small frame to sate a child's hunger for tomorrow? Did the will vanish under the weight of female brawn, ephemeral as a feather flown onto my kitchen floor? Are we linked through the need to be needed? The thirst for love beyond the labyrinth of love? I've seen the bones of Lucy. Can there be only birth and death? Or do our words relay a promise that bones cannot convey? Thank you. And, so this next one is written with appreciation to Rupert Brooke. I think in my creative writing classes, I used to tell students to choose a poem by someone that you really like, a poem that you love, and then emulate the rhythm, maybe the rhyme, the rhythm and the rhyme of it. So I decided to do this too. And this is taken from a poem that Rupert Brooke called The Visit. If you have a chance to look it up, I suggest you do. It's a delightful poem. It's about a young man who's waiting in the woods on a moonlit night for his sweetheart to arrive. And he does. And she's got lots of petticoats and, you know, makes a lot of noise and sits down and quacks beside him. And his mood is totally broken and his love is gone. So I thought that I would write about a woman in a similar situation, a response perhaps. This poem is totally imagined. I don't want you to think it's real. So, caught in the tremor of your voice, I cling to what has not been said. Pretend that I might have a choice of songs once heard and poems once read. The clouds unravel to tease the night and emulate the sea's distress. And though I stay, I long for flight, for softer stars and quietness. And even the sky is snarling. And I know what I know cannot be much, though this second is worth a dying. When the moon and the music are ruled by you, and my love shrinks, self-defying, and the day wilts at our touch. So soon a silence will open a door that leads to the joys I knew before, to golden paths for dancing feet and promises of hands that meet, applauding the one that we've become, the truth that's so hard to cheat. And I know I'll remember to forget your words that bounce with violent beat, afraid of the return, your torment exploding with savage heat, too paralyzed to learn that there is more than wrong and right, more than lost and found. And we can be consumed by night, ascending into sound. And the next was written for an elderly couple I knew and loved. It's called Gone. They have been friends, the kind of friends that only lovers can be, turning toward one another's smell, sensing winter words before they swirl like helpless ginkgos in the wind. They have been lovers, the kind of lovers that only friends can be, who taste the salty blood of sorrow, their passions dangling, vulnerable as the roots of tender teeth. They have known what not to know, spoken each other's thoughts, sipped from one another's cups, assuming what they felt could be found and forgotten. They have outlasted beauty and outlived lust. Perhaps you label it love, this justice that outgrows time. Do not say, at least they had. Do not call it a loss. It is loyalty. The loyalty that sews our soul into the seams of immigrant coats. The loyalty that runs beyond the finish line. She is not gone. She has died. And death is never a blessing. And the next poem is in a lighter vein, which maybe we knew we needed. And this is based on a very real experience. That was fun. It was a lot of fun for me. He looked like a football hero. I had the sense I had seen him before, somewhere in a place-defying time. At the car wash? At the grocery store? Somewhere, standing in a line where unobserved, I could observe his fine form, his body, a poem, a structure dedicated to the throngs that would place him above measurement, transcending wrongs. He carried himself with that sense of knowing he could be admired, like a painting or song, something that has completed a season of growing, something that could expect to belong to the many, but at the expense of the few who would know his flaws, find the true beneath the persona of beauty and youth. He caught my eye. Did I stare at his silver earring, his velvet skin, ivory tooth. Should I speak to him before we part? No, I was too old to follow the heart down a path better lost than won. I had the sense I had seen him before, somewhere in a place-defying time, perhaps a dream that stung to the core of who we are when we're not afraid to hurt, who we are when boundaries disappear. I came home and put on my husband's shirt. And then there are those poems from the section called Without, the poems of sorrow. This one of my death, I think it was written in 2003, maybe. During the days of my death, dust gathers on tabletops. Strangers speak to me as if I'm alive. Birds incessantly silent, water still. During the days of my death, I have no need for sleep. Like childhood, my dying passes without definition or the grace of an hourglass. It slips from my soul and scatters on the floor like crystal. After the days of my death, I clear your desk, teach the books to honor absence. Cotton cocoons relax the pages of our life. Unborn spiders sleep within. They listen to the chiming of the clock. Your jeans and a flannel shirt hang in the closet waiting. They wait with the simplicity of pain or prayer. I'm early for our date. And you, my love, are late again. And the next is called Off Course. It's the things we never talked about that follow like foamy wake after you surged ahead to a place I cannot go. Those things we finally came to know or tried to believe to avoid crashing into invisible rock. Silences spurred us, puffing our sails, wind ruffling surf, until the reflections shivered with sleepless life. I think we knew that what we didn't know became the glue bonding our days into one. Even now, madness clings to meaning like a spider dancing on invisible thread. Our kisses sizzle out like frothy water, softly vanishing into the depths behind us. And this one is for Amy, my granddaughter. It isn't like a game of hide and seek where I can search and tease you out from behind the crusted trunk of a climbing tree, laughing at how cleverly you fooled me. It isn't that I can conjure you with some magical prayer until you evolve, scholarly, sensitive, older, but still young, transformed into goddess now that you are not. Don't think I think of you constantly, though it may seem so, or that I know your voice, your whisper, a sigh carried on midnight wings. I do see your questing eyes and the quiet stoic stare of a doe caught near the roses, defiant in the shade of twilight, determined to grasp a sweet. It is as though a butterfly blinks over synthetic grass, watching realities die. A feather falls from nowhere to the hood of my car. A teardrop merges into the sea. It's just that you have become a part of all I love. And loving you gives grace to grief. Promises that endings born of beginning have begun again and again until the anguish wears thin, and you and I and the butterfly are one. And the last poem that Nancy referred to. This is from the section called Beyond. Why I write. In the shadow of an antiquated light in a well-trod alley in Barcelona, he plays the saxophone like a coyote baying at a full moon. We understand. Music is not bound by language. He wails and weeps into and out of brass, the clear notes sailing around dark corners, calling to native and tourist alike. Yes, there is a hat at his feet. A few coins begged to merge with more. But he doesn't play for money. He plays because it is who he is and what he wants to become. I write because I don't know how to play the saxophone. And thank you. I think that's all that we had planned. And now I look forward to some conversation with those of you who are here.
That was beautiful, Elyce. Thank you so much. What a gift.
Thank
That
you.
was beautiful writing. And what a time that I think we all need to take a breath away. And that was wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us this wonderful gift today. We would now like to open up to discussion, but I do want to mention that a lot of you ordered Elyce's lovely book, and it has arrived, and she is so kind and wants to sign them to you. So we hope to get them in the mail to those of you who have ordered them in early December. So that'll be a little early holiday gift for everyone. And next up, I just want to mention there's people all the way from London on this call who dialed in the middle of the night, Massachusetts, all over the US. So this is bringing a wonderful community together. And as we have our discussion today, I'm sure people want to make comments, ask questions. Please, you can raise your hand in the chat. You can raise your hand or do this and we'll try to call on you. And introduce yourself and let us know how you know Elyce, because we are one community and want to get to know each other. So does anyone have a question or comment and want to start?
Well, it's exciting. It's just great to see everybody. Oh my gosh.
I'll speak up. So this is Trisha Paik.
Hello.
I don't know if you remember all of the students, but I was at Castilleja. I never got to graduate because my family moved to Northern California. But I was at Castilleja from, 1980 to 1985. And I have favorite memories of being in class with Mrs. Melmon. It's hard for me to switch. And it was so lovely to receive this invitation, because, you know, when we're 14 years old and all these great teachers here that I see also on the screen, you know, you're just there for us. And so to see that you've continued your career in writing and being an artist, it was just really, really wonderful and so moving to see. So I'm just honored to be here and to see you, as I loved my English classes with you, and I love the reminder of your lovely script. And my favorite book that you taught that I remember mostly was The Chosen, which was very impactful to me. And I just want to thank you. I haven't seen you in years, but I've carried you with me wherever I go. And I actually published my own book. I'll send to you at some point.
Great, great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Trisha.
Sorry, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to make a connection.
So nice. Thank
And
you.
to all the other teachers I see here, I won't name them all out, but I had many of you as well. French with Madame Nuckerman and Madame Grunman.
Right. Good. Thank you, Trisha.
If I may, I do have a question. This is Rami Artizoni. Many of us are dealing with children of various ages with distance learning, and it's obviously a challenge right now. What would be your suggestions? In particular, I have a daughter who is an avid reader, but is a reluctant writer. So what would be your advice, coming to me at a different perspective, in trying to encourage my daughter to write more, to support her in her writing, both creatively and also with her assignments for school?
Raimi, it's fun to see you again. Of course, that's a good question. I think the best way to encourage someone to write is to encourage them to read. So you have a heads up if your daughter already loves reading. But I guess what I would suggest is that you buy her a beautiful journal or let her pick one out herself and encourage her to write anything at all that she wants. No censorship.
Mm-hmm.
If, young people, adolescents go through so many stages and they're really down one day and then maybe up the next. And when they're down, the world is dreadful. Those are the times when writing is really helpful. And so I would encourage her to write whatever she wants and tell her that you don't have to read it, and don't keep your word.
Yeah.
Tell her she can throw it away if she wants to after she's written it. It doesn't have to be good, but it definitely helps, I think, to express yourself, to get those down on page. It's not as bad as when they're, running through your head. And I would just assure her that she can have anonymity if she wants, or if she would like, she could write something to you and you would write back. Another idea is to have your daughter write a journal and you also write a journal and share.
Okay, yeah. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks, Randy.
Hi, Elyce. This is Karen Toby.
Hi, Karen.
The room is a little dark because it's the lamp is broken behind me. But I just want you to know how much I really enjoyed this presentation and how much I've always admired your ability to write and to influence others to do so. I know my own girls became writers partly because of their English training at Castilleja, and you were among the teachers who made that all happen. Nancy Flowers, of course, was too, as were several others. But that suggestion that you gave to Raimi, and Raimi, nice to see you. I haven't seen you since you were a teenager. It is those suggestions.
Definitely not a teenager anymore.
You still look very young. And the suggestions that Mrs. Melmon, Elyce, gave to you, I think are so excellent, because I know that that's something that came out of the English department at Castilleja for my kids when they couldn't talk to mom and dad, but they could write and they had journals. It so improved their ability to handle all the teenage angst that they were going through. And we never read the journals, but they were kept up in the top of the closet, and we let them take them with them when they were grown to decide whether they were going to make something of them or not. But it did make writing an outlet that was so excellent for emotional stability in a turbulent time. So thank you, Elyce, and other English teachers who are here for all of that.
Thank you, Karen. I still have memories of girls coming into my English class carrying a sack of flour or a small watermelon, and that was their baby that they were supposed to take care of because Mrs. Toby was in your psychology class was them to do that.
Remember that well.
Joanna from London.
Yes, hi Elyce. It's really great to see you. And yes, I'm saying hi from London. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin very shortly. First of all, I wanted to really thank you because like someone else mentioned, it's really lovely to get that insight into your world as not just the teacher, but the writer. And I particularly liked Gone and that last poem about why you write. And so I have a question about how you write. I'm just curious, you used to invite writers to come to the English class and tell us about their writing styles. And I remember like there were ones who said that they got up every morning and they wrote a certain number of hours. And I've read essays about writers who tie themselves to their chair to prevent themselves from procrastinating. And I just wondered if you're a regimented writer and you write a little every day at a set time, or do you wait for inspiration to strike, or what's your style?
Joanna, it is so great to see you. We have many other things I'd love to talk about. Wonderful work that you do. But no, you probably know me well enough to know I'm not very disciplined. So I don't believe in forcing yourself to write. And because I don't believe that, there are times when I just can't help it. I need to. So for me, writing is, I think, the way jogging or running is for some people. They really get a high, and if they don't do it, they don't feel like themselves anymore. So I wouldn't say that I write every day. I keep several journals, and I keep one just to write quotations that I love, and I keep another that's for what I'm imagining or perhaps working on, because I like to keep fact and fiction separate. When I'm writing a story or a play, fact and fiction merge, but in life, yeah, you don't want them to. So I do keep a journal for ideas, and I carry that with me. In case I'm waiting, someplace in the doctor's office or something, and I have nothing else to do. I have a little journal in my book, and I can imagine what people are thinking about, what they're there, and it may give me an idea for a story. Very often I will get all excited and write something down, and then a day later I look at it and I think, oh, this is dreadful. What was I thinking? So, but no, I'm not really terribly disciplined. I sometimes have a lot of trouble sleeping, and I think I get ideas. Most of my ideas come when I can't sleep, as you're forcing yourself to stay awake tonight for this. But I think everyone has to find his or her own style that works. And I know a lot of writers say you have to write every day. Well, there's no doubt that you'll be better because practice makes perfect. But I find writing to be a joy, and I don't want to take that away by forcing myself.
Yeah, turning it into a task, setting yourself homework. You don't want to set yourself homework.
So anyway, and I know you to be a very good writer. So I think it creeps into scientific writing and the wonderful letters that you write from your journey. And anyway, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
We have some more hands up. Susan?
Yeah, okay. Susan Barkin, a colleague of Elyce's. And Elyce, I want to say, first of all, how much I've enjoyed following your creative process. I have enjoyed the plays that we could see at the Pear Theater, that wonderfully intimate setting. And you had wonderfully funny ones that made us all laugh, and then very serious ones that made us think. But these poems are a new endeavor, and what a joy to hear you read them. And my favorite is Stray. And although I know you're mostly a dog person, that has got to be a cat, and I can really relate to that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that wonderful poem. And also with regard, I just want to add one more thing to the idea of keeping a journal. And that is not to try to write every day, as you mentioned. And also sometimes it helps if you form it as a letter. I know Anne Frank had an imaginary friend called Kitty. So when she wanted to write, she'd say, "Dear Kitty." And this kind of helps the creative juices start flowing rather than just staring at the blank page. So that's what I've done, and I found it helpful.
Good
So
idea.
thank you for everything, Elyce.
I have to say, Susan, I thought of you when I read the poem Stray. Susan is a real cat lover
Oh,
and,
yes.
mama to many cats. And also, I think our expert grammarian. Whenever I have a question about grammar, I think I really should call Susan and get the answer. So, thank you.
Bill, do you have a question or comment? I'm not sure where Bill went. Who wants to go next? Is it
Pratika?
Hi, Mrs. Melmon. Sorry, I can't keep my video on. I'm worried I'll get booted off because of bandwidth. But yeah, it's so wonderful to see you and to listen to your evocative and sort of gentle spirited poetry.
Google Chrome. Solo artists you didn't know started out in bands.
I guess a question I had was, do you have any ideas or tips for someone like me who, at Castilleja, I had a real balance of sort of writing of analytic prose and creative writing, thanks to my range of classes there. But I majored in philosophy and got a PhD in it and teach it. And so it's sort of like the creative writing sadly dropped off and all of my energies went into analytic writing. And now I find myself reading fiction and poetry with a kind of wistfulness because I feel like I've lost the ability to be more creative in my writing. And so I'm wondering, I'm going to guess you're going to say it's not too late to recapture some of that, but I'm wondering what ideas or tips you have for how to kind of, revive the more creative side.
Well, Kritika, I think that all writing is creative. There are a lot of textbooks that you read that are really dry and kind of dull. And then you find an historical novel that is just exciting, like the wonderful work that Nora Titone wrote, My Thoughts Be Bloody. And suddenly history comes to life for you. And I think scientific writing can do the same thing. Now you can't turn it into a fairy tale. You can't write what isn't true and authentic. But I think it works both ways. I think if you're writing a short story or something that is simply out of your imagination, but you can bring to it the authenticity of truth, of historical fact or scientific fact, it makes your creative writing more alive. And the very same thing works in the opposite direction. So don't stray from your area of interest. You're a philosopher, write philosophy. But I think you can add a touch of the playful, if you want to call it that. And hopefully it works in two directions. So I'm very proud of your accomplishments and also of your going on to teach. That's just wonderful. So we need to stay in touch.
Kirsten?
I just wanted to say thanks. It's been great. The beautiful, beautiful, beautiful writing. And it's so great to see all the little teachers. Thanks. Awesome. You would never know this to the French teachers out there, but I translated something from the Pasteur Institute that about COVID yesterday, and I'm not a scientist, it was for my other half, but it was from French to English. So those French teachers who had me, they would say I was a terrible French student, but yeah, I still remember it, and thank you. But it was great to see everybody.
Thank you. I'm sure they would not say you were a terrible student.
I'm pretty sure they knew that I copied Anu Kapoor's French homework on the train.
Oh.
Lori?
Hi. Hi, Elyce.
Hi, Lori.
I'm Lori Grand. None of you know me, but I've been working with Elyce on a project for CARA, which is a grief counseling organization based in Palo Alto. And I don't know if you know, but some of you probably do, but Elyce has been a grief counselor as a volunteer at CARA for many moons. And I've been fortunate enough to be matched up with her. I live in Irvine. I don't live up north anymore, but we've been working together via Zoom and FaceTime. And she's become very accomplished technologically, but we're working on, yes, don't laugh. Look, you're sitting right there right now. We've been working on it's going to be a virtual workshop on journaling your way through the grief process when you've lost somebody important in your life, when somebody has died. And she has in the past given that workshop at CARA as a volunteer. We're both volunteers, live, you know, in person at CARA. And now we can't do that anymore. So we're taking her content, and with the magic of technology, we're working together to make that available to people to help them get through the grief process. So she's not just, I know you know, she's not just, I don't mean just, but in addition to her role as an English teacher and writer and all the other things that she does that I don't even know about because I've only known you for less than a year, Elyce. She also has this amazing talent, and it's just been a pleasure to work with you. And I'm thrilled to sit in this audience or this group, whatever you want to call it, and see this other side of you. And I can't wait to get the book in the mail. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Lori. Wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Nancy.
Hello, Mrs. Melmon. Hi, honey. It's Nancy. And okay, I have a question. So when I write, I know Diane Frank, who looks at my stuff. You know, I never learned like anything formally, like commas or punctuation. And I remember I was so frustrated because Diane sent out a big email about, well, this is how you deal with punctuations and how you deal with commas, and it's so important to get published, and et cetera, et cetera. And my mind just blanks. It just goes, huh? Like what? And so, and then Diane said, Nancy, this email isn't for you. You just write and I'll take care of it. However, I'm 65 now, and I wonder, you know, like your poem, I write because I don't play saxophone, and the guy who plays the saxophone, he played because of who he was and who he would become. If I try to figure out some way to figure out how I could understand commas and punctuation, would it help the creative process? Would it help me to go and go through the labyrinth and talk to all the beings and the animals in the labyrinth and be able to bring some of that back? Because that's the important thing to me, be able to go deep and bring something back. Would that help me? And is it, and how do I do that if my brain has trouble thinking like that?
Well, Nancy, I think the answer is yes.
Because yeah, I do too.
Punctuation is a vehicle for you. The only reason for it is to make your thought more clear to whomever is going to read it.
That's right.
So I think, yes, I think you do need punctuation. A comma can make the world of difference in what you're saying. I mean, it's, you know, what was the sentence we used to use? Don't eat your bread or roll in the soup, something like that. And the punctuation makes all the difference in the world. Or the Republicans, comma, say the Democrats, comma, will win.
Yeah.
Or take the commas out and it means the exact opposite. So yeah, you do need punctuation simply for yourself. However, you can put punctuation wherever you want. Doesn't, you know, it's up to you. It's just like another word, really. And how do you learn it? I don't know. I guess I should ask Susan this question. I mean, we had so many wonderful textbooks. I'd go back to Warner's and, but I don't think that's the way people are learning these days.
Yeah.
So
I've never done so well through books. I do well with a person. Maybe I have to try to like find a person that could help me understand that, right? It's like with music. If you know the music, then you can improvise, right? Sure. And to me, isn't writing a lot of improvise? It's improvising a lot. So just have to find the way that it works for me instead of still rebelling and saying, I can't figure it out. I'm just going to write, right?
You can be an E.E. Cummings and just forget about punctuation completely, but it should be your choice. So you should not use it first. And yeah, well, we can talk about this.
I'd like to share something with the group that I don't know any of them except I know Toby and I know Elyce. So that Elyce told me years ago. Can I share with them what you told me that I will always remember for the entire time I live?
Oh no, what I told you.
I know you don't remember, so I'll let you know. But you will remember when I say it. There, have I built it up enough? So yeah, I wrote something and my older sister said, that's not your best work. And I you know, I went, and I shared it with Elyce one time. And she said, this is what you tell your older sister. You say, oh no, she said, why don't you speak the way you write? And Elyce, that was it. Elyce said, tell your older sister, oh, I save my best words for my poetry. Now, isn't that cool? Isn't that great? I'm sure there was punctuation. I'm sure there was a period after that. There was probably a lot of exclamations and a lot of stars from my point of view, because that made a big impression on me. Such wisdom in that woman's words, eh?
Thank you, Nancy. I think we're.
Yeah, it's true, huh?
Thank
so
you.
I bet she was a great teacher, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you all for coming out for this. Elyce, Nancy Flowers, thank you for organizing this and suggesting it. And Elyce, thank you for sharing your wonderful work with us. It is wonderful to be a part of this Castilleja community. And I put in the link, you know, if you want to order her book, I'll also send an email with it. And just, we are so thankful for everyone in this community. We wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you, Elyce.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm really grateful that you're here. And so nice to see you all.
Mrs. Melmon, this is Trisha Paik again. I still remember you. I think about you all the time. You taught our class in 10th grade the difference between anxious and eager. And every time someone uses anxious wrong in place of eager, I think they weren't taught by Mrs. Melmon. So I had to share that with you. My sister is Felicia Paik. She graduated from Castilleja, but I never got to. I had to leave. So I never got to say goodbye to you. And I remember Madame Nuckerman and Madame Grunman, and so nice to see all these faces. But I have such fond memories of my 4 years at Castilleja. So thank you so much, Mrs. Melmon, and also to my French teachers. I kind of lost my French, but I have a little bit of it here. Madame Nuckerman used to have us run up to the class board in 2 teams to write different words down. Do you remember that? We'd have 2 teams and we'd run up the 7th grade French class.
Elyce, I really want to thank you. Your poems are like, they are like songs of love and loss and warmth and wisdom. You're such an inspiration. It's just unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing your talent with all of us.
I seem to recall you're the one who said, why don't we have a reading?
I'm going to make your book into a Christmas present for many of my friends, because they will all, some of them will find specific poems that really speak to them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Miss Melmon, this is Candace, class of 92. I was in our freshman English. So I just wanted to say what a treat this was. And I was so inspired by the fact that you've been writing poems since you were in high school, and that you kept this collection, and that you've continued to edit and write and edit and write. And that dedication of this love of the craft has just been enormously inspiring. And my daughter is here, and she loves to write, and she loves poems. So this was really inspiring for her too. So thank you so much for sharing. This was really, really inspiring. Thank you.
So nice to see you again. Gosh, it's wonderful. Yes. And some of these women who were my students just still look the same.
And you look the same.
You look the same. Are you writing, Mrs. Melmon, any poems about COVID? Do you feel inspired to be kind of talking about this time, or is it maybe something later, or how are you feeling about this moment?
Well, I don't feel very good about this moment. Yes, it creeps in. There is one of the last poems in my collection in the book is called Trumpet. It's a double haiku about Trump. So you might get my my feelings about him, and it doesn't exactly, it doesn't spot the pandemic, but it does spot some political feelings. I have a little play I'm working on that has the characters in this time with the pandemic and the fires. So
thank you.
Thank you. It's really nice to reconnect. Yeah.
Mrs. Melmon, this is Eileen. Can you guys hear me? Is my mic working? Hi, Mrs. Melmon. It was such a treat to hear your poems. And I want to thank all of these amazing teachers who are here today, because I still really lean on everything I learned from Castilleja to this very day. And I just wanted to let you know that I still love to write. And I just did a round of employee reviews for some peers. And I did one in a haiku and one in a sonnet and a couple in limericks. So I still love playing with poetry, and I really credit you for helping me find the joy in that. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Eileen. I still remember the little book you made in our creative writing class, and it was just lovely. So
I still have that book. I actually have the book and all my machuelos like right above my desk.
Right.
Just to remind me that maybe someday I can go back to writing for fun again when I have time and mind space for it.
Good. Keep writing. It's great. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I have to just say hello and echo in here too. Am I on audio?
You're good.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. I have earbuds in, so I never know if they cooperate with the Zoom, but it's just really moving to, see Castilleja in the background right now. My goodness, it looks different where you are. And just to hear your poems, Mrs. Melmon, Elyce, really wonderful, and just brought back so many memories of your voice from that classroom. I know we talked about like adolescence being a turbulent time, but there's so much turbulence right now that in a way it just was this was such a soothing hour. I feel so connected in a way that I haven't in a really long time. And so thank you for that. And really wonderful that there are some of my other beloved, amazing teachers hiding in the background on my Zoom gallery too. It's just so nice to have this little moment of connection. And thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I remember your writing as well. Some beautiful poems came out of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So nice. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, everyone. And this was such a gift, Elyce. Thank you. And thank you for all being here.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Be safe and well.